First, we admire the tamarack, otherwise known as the eastern white larch or American larch. This species commonly grows in swamps and bogs, appropriately named by the Chippewa. The word tamarack translates to swamp tree in their language. The tamarack is also well adapted to the cold and upland soils, giving them a natural range of southeastern Canada to BC and Alaska. Living to about 180 years old and reaching about 15 meters tall, the tamarack is known by its soft, pale green needles that grow in brush-like tufts on small spurs along each twig. Now, some people may not realize, but it's actually a deciduous conifer, which means it sheds its needles every fall. And just before the needles drop in the autumn, they turn a beautiful golden color, affording the standing tamaracks a striking contrast to the fall foliage. These unique trees can be used for various food sources. The inner bark and sweet, gummy sap can be consumed, as well as the tender spring shoots, which are nutritious and can be eaten when boiled, or used by the Ojibwe to make twined woven bags. It was also useful to many Aboriginal peoples for natural medicine, like tea made from the tamarack bark to treat multiple ailments. The Ojibwe used poultices from the inner bark to treat sores, swelling, and burns. The wood from these beautiful trees is sturdy and can be used for farm frames, railroad ties, and fence posts, and at one point was used for making ships for the Royal Navy. We have the silver maple, also referred to as a river or creek maple, for its preference to water's edge and damp areas. Over time, it has proven to be extremely versatile, by flourishing in poor, rocky soils and in cities as a street tree, as commonly seen here in Montreal. A native across Central and North America, the silver is the fastest growing of all types of maples, gaining up to 24 inches per year, possibly achieving over 30 meters at maturity. A strong identifier of this maple would be the dark green leaf with a silvery underside, although generally in the autumn, the leaves will become a bright yellow to orange. As large, robust trees, they're often planted acting as a support system for soil in degraded areas. They are also useful for their syrup. Although it generally contains half as much as the sugar maple, it can be extracted and often tastes sweeter than its cousins. Along with this pleasant advantage, the native tree has adapted many uses by Indigenous peoples and provided medicinal solutions, such as using an infusion of the bark for treatment of coughs, cramps, and ongoing sores. We also have the balsam poplar, a beautiful deciduous tree. This poplar will reach approximately 30 meters tall, spreading its ovate, heart-shaped leaves to give off an aromatic scent, and rough gray bark that makes it fairly easy to identify across Central and North America. These poplars have a long history in medicinal use, being advantageous to Native American tribes who found the buds are covered in a resinous sap that smells of turpentine and tastes bitter, but once boiled, they may be used as a treatment for various ailments. It would be made into a tea and drank, mostly treating skin and lung inflammation. They also found that the inner bark is edible. Like some of our other native trees, dried and ground to a powder, it can be used into flowers. Something interesting as well points out at our local bees, as they will sometimes harvest the resin from the balsam poplar and use it to disinfect their own hives. And we also have the northern white cedar. Commonly used as an ornamental tree, this evergreen conifer frequents the land across eastern Canada and range from north, central, and northeastern United States. It is known as the eastern white cedar or swamp cedar, due to its exceptional abundance in coniferous swamps, where it can't be outcompeted by larger, faster-growing trees. It also thrives in areas where competition with other species is low, such as cliffs and rugged areas. This species may be known as arborvitae, due to the Latin meaning being tree of life for its supposed medicinal properties of the sap, bark, and twigs. Similarly, the Ojibwe have long since honored the tree as a gift to humanity. In their language, it translates to grandmother cedar, sacred for its uses in craft, construction, and medicinal properties such as its high vitamin C levels. This cedar is also useful for wildlife in the winter. The scaled, soft green foliage is an attractive meal for mammals such as deer. Commercially, it can be used for posts, lumber, and log cabins, whereas essential oil can play a role in cleansers, disinfectants, room sprays, and soaps. However, the white cedar can be an extremely long-living tree. Notably, some specimens have reached over 1,600 years old in areas where there's less damage by wildlife and competition. This North American fir, native to most eastern and central Canada as well, is often celebrated for its rich green needles, natural conical shape, and needle retention after being cut, and notably the most fragrant of all the Christmas tree varieties. Firs can be identified by their needles, which are attached to the twigs in flat rows, in contrast to the needles of spruce and pine, which are attached to the twigs at all angles. Though we often see them cut early for holiday festivities, these trees can grow up to 20 meters and live to be over 200 years old. This native produces resin and sap that has achieved many uses over time. Applications in folk remedies are widespread, from medical properties such as the resin's antiseptic and healing components to being used as glue for glasses and microscope mounting. It is also said the historian Jacques Mathieu has argued that the balsam fir was the Anita that was used to cure scurvy during the second expedition into Canada by Jacques Cartier. The fresh scent of this fir has often been used for fresheners and incense, and prior to the ability of mattresses, balsam fir bows were a preferred bed, creating a pleasantly fragrant mattress. And as the fate of many strong North American trees, its wood is milled for framing lumber, siding, and pulp for paper manufacture.